Okay, so now we start the actual design process. Now I've made a few changes here. First of all, I added a signature, and also I changed this text a little bit because I realized when I brought in the logos, because I have four logos here, four different logos that I'm going to use for four different ways of arranging typography on a letterhead. But when I brought in these logos, I remembered that Tekir Efendi is actually a dry goods store, and the text before was about food, so I changed that a little bit. And then I also brought in this address text. Now, and I used the actual real-life address of Casa Galeri, which I got from the Sabancı University website. So I copy-pasted that and the phone numbers and everything into this address box. And the reason why I did that is obviously for reasons of privacy, because I don't want to use my own or anybody else's personal home address or anything like that. None of that stuff should be available on the internet. So I'm using Casa Galeri's address because I do want to have a real address and not something that is made up, because that is going to make us do this thing absolutely correctly, the way that it's supposed to be done, with all the correct information and so on and so forth. So now let's get started with that then. Now let me open the logos again. And I have one here, which is the script logo, which is the one that I'm going to start with. It's this one right here. So now when we zoom into this, we can see that this is a completely centered logotype. Let me just close these guides here and all of that as well, so that you can see it exactly as it is. It is completely centered, which would mean that the letterhead design that revolves around the centered logotype would pretty much have to be something that is centered. Now let me find the center of this A4, which if I drag a guide, it'll snap automatically to the center, provided that I'm on the background layer here. And then if I take this and just do a Control T, which is the transform command, then I can use these little boxes here to align this exactly to the center, and then I just press enter. And we have it right here. Now what we need to pay attention to is that all of this information stays outside of this box, because this box is going to be what is on the envelope into which this letter is actually going to go. So this probably needs to move up a bit. And then we come down to the address here. Now this text is completely unformatted. So what I mean by that is when I double click on it, it's Arial, regular, 9 points. The leading is 9 points, the kerning is 0. So this is not going to stay this way, obviously. It's going to change. It's going to become formatted. I'm going to change the font, I'm going to change the leading, I'm going to change the kerning, I'm going to change the point size maybe. All of that is going to get rearranged. Now, since the logo is centered, this text would need to become centered as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to center it, and then actually let me do it with the Control T again, and then center it on the page. Now, since I don't have a lot of space up here, I want to use the logo in a nice big way, I'm going to use the bottom of the page. Now, the actual margin is down here, but we can go a little bit into that as well. But we still have a pretty high block here. So probably the thing to do, and that I am going to in fact do, is to extend this, to make less lines out of it. So let's first of all open this up. So this first one has now become an extended line. We have Karaköy, Beyoğlu, Istanbul here. I wouldn't put that with it like that, but I would put it like this, and then also I would add Turkey, because this company may also have correspondence with other companies in other parts of the world. So I have an extra space here, I think, and I think I also have an extra space here. Do I? No, actually I don't. Do I have an extra space? No, I don't. Do I have an extra space here? No, I don't. This is how it's supposed to be. Now these two phone numbers can also go on one line, and this here can also go on one line, which means that now we have a much wider but less high text area. So let me move that down, put it on the margin actually. Now I can add some things. So for example, what I can do, which people do a lot, is add a Pica to, I just open the character map, I have it docked to my taskbar. I just selected the Pica, which I'm going to copy, and I'm going to actually paste one in here and also paste one in here. But what I could also do is I could add, for example, a T and an F for here, because one of these is a fax number and the other one, I'm assuming that one of them is a fax number and one of them is a phone number. I could do that, but I'll leave that to one of the other variants that I'm going to do. Now, let's come to this here, because this is quite important. Now, when you are designing a letterhead is an official document which can be used in court cases, when you want to collect money, things like that, when you need to prove something in a court of law in front of a judge. So, because it's an official document, the official name of the company needs to be on this document. And that is different from the logotype. The logotype is not the official name of the company. Now, the official name of the company in all countries is going to be the name that it is registered under in the tax office, in the maliye in Turkish. So it would either have anonim şirketi behind it in Turkey or limited şirketi. It would indicate that this is a company, and in other countries there are similar abbreviations that you, or suffixes that you put at the back of it. We're doing it for Turkey here, but international students need to check out how that is done in their own countries. This is the logotype, and it says Tekir Efendi Aktar. That's all it says. Here, this is the official name of the company, which in this case I invented, Tekir Efendi Gıda Hizmetleri AŞ, and that needs to be on the address of this letterhead. This is quite important. Please pay attention to that. So now let's start formatting this text. And let me just go back here. Now, the font that I used here, if I don't misremember, is Barlow Condensed, and it's extra light, so the Barlow family might actually be a good one to use for this as well. So let's do that first. So obviously it shouldn't be extra light, it should be legible. So let's go with light for now, but this may even change to regular at some point, especially when we're putting together the mock-up, but I'm going to stay with light. And already it's beginning to look better than the aria. Now, we will hardly ever, in fact never, leave the leading exactly as it is, so let me select that, and let's go here, and the leading here is 0, it's 9/9, but I'm going to make that more. So let's try 14, let's first try 12, zoom out, see what it looks like. Let's close the guides for now. 12 seems to be pretty good. Now let's take a look at the kerning, or rather let's see if some of these things here could actually become different weights. So Tekir Efendi Gıda Hizmetleri Anonim Şirketi, if we make that regular, it makes a tiny difference. How about if we make that medium? So now we have a kind of like a nice little distinction here, which seems to be working quite nicely. Now let's look at whether when we change the kerning, if anything becomes better or improves, or I made this a little bit wider so that it becomes a little bit more legible. So that seems to look quite nice. And also it is, let me just close this here, and it also fits with this here, so it's the same family of fonts, so there's a continuity. However, in the logo we have the stroke here, and I think we could use the stroke at the bottom as well, so that the address area and the logotype area become even more whole, become even more harmonious. So I just made a duplicate of the stroke and I put it inside the address folder. So let me move this down, 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 and let's see what we can do with that. Now I could keep it here, I could keep it up here. However, what I could also do is I could increase the leading between Tekir Efendi and the first line of the address bar, so if I make it 16, then this is more, and then if I put the stroke in the middle, then it becomes like this. And this is the way that I would actually format the text so that it is harmonious with the logotype. I would, with a centered logotype, I would not play around, I would not fool around, I would not try to make this uncentered. So if I take this, for example, let me just show you what I mean. If I take this and put it over here, no, it's not really going to work. If I take it and put it over here, no, it's not really going to work. It will really only work when you have it centered, because it is a centered design element. And then when you have that here and you say to yourself, oh, I'm going to get interesting and I'm going to, for example, make this left aligned, it's not really going to work. So if I just, let's see, move the stroke over here, and let's say you did something like that, as you can see, this is not going to work because it's a centered design element which needs another centered design element right down here. Now this will work with a left aligned logotype, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But now let's just go back to here, to where we were, and zoom in a bit and just kind of like go down, and there you have it. So that's the first version, and it's all about the centered logo. Now I am going to be adding things to this in a further tutorial that I'm going to do later, where I'm also going to play around with color and also other kinds of shapes that we might be able to use with this. But for now we have the basics, which is the address, which is now nicely formatted, and the logotype. So that's the end of this one here, and I'll see you in just a little bit.